The reason today is the holiest day is because what happened on Easter changes literally everything. That might not be evident at first look, but it changes every single thing about our lives. It makes impossible things possible. And we see that the power of Easter has been unleashed in Christians everywhere. There are impossible things made possible every day because of Easter. You may remember that in 2006 there was a school shooting. This one was at a one-room Amish schoolhouse in Nickel Mines, Pennsylvania. It's so close. We could get in the car right now and be there in 4 hours. The landscape there looks just like around here. And there was a gunman who went in, held the kids hostage. He shot 10 little girls, and 5 of them died. The Amish community immediately started taking up a fund, a collection for the widow of the gunman. And they invited her to come to the joint funeral service they had for the 5 little girls, and they invited his parents too. At that funeral service, the Amish minister said this: "We have no enemies. We are all God's children. And forgiveness is at the very core of our Christian faith. If we can't forgive those who are lost and would do harm to us, then our faith would be meaningless." How in the world could they say that? How could they do that? How could they respond that way? It's because of Easter. Easter changes everything. And I think it means something different to us this year because you know one way to understand Easter is we are vaccinated from death. That's Easter. We're vaccinated. Can't die now. You don't need to worry. It's different than being vaccinated from dying. None of us is going to avoid that. Dying is a part of the journey. Jesus did not banish dying on Easter. He banished death. So there is still cancer, and there's still car accidents and shootings, and there's still COVID. That can't be avoided. Those things still hurt. But dying is not final. Death is what we always thought was final, and it's not. And if death could be conquered, what's next? Taxes? What is the limit once death has been conquered? Being a Christian means studying Jesus' life and deciding to trust in the formula that he offers us. And saying, I know that his way is not the normal way. It's not the way society will teach us. It's not the way that's conventional wisdom. But Jesus' way is the way. When we sign up to be Christians, we're saying, I'm going to trust that formula. I'm going to live that way, even when it doesn't feel like it's going to work out. And if I choose to trust that, then it doesn't quite matter as much what the results of the biopsy are. It doesn't matter as much what the results of that court case is going to be. It doesn't quite matter as much because we've decided already to trust in the formula and to believe in the one who showed us that the impossible is possible. So let's go back to that Amish leader. That statement that the Amish leader made at that funeral, that was not said cheaply. He said that in front of 5 small coffins. And what he said, one more time, forgiveness is at the very core of our Christian faith. If we can't forgive someone who's lost and would do harm to us, then our faith would be meaningless. He was trusting the formula. He was thinking of Good Friday. when Jesus was nailed to the cross. And before they were even finished, he said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. They were not sorry. They were in the middle of doing it. And he said, Father, forgive them. So the Amish have decided to trust in the formula. We don't pretend we understand. But if our master says forgive, that's the core. That's the formula. We've decided to stick with the one who has banished death. And once you decide to stick with that formula, the impossible becomes possible. Back when I was a teacher about 15 years ago in Boston, I had a very unpleasant experience where I was betrayed by two people. And I did not get over it easily. I was overwhelmed with how unfair it was. And it was one of those situations that maybe you can relate to. It was one of those ones where I couldn't sleep. I just couldn't sleep. Every time I would close my eyes, I'd start ruminating about how wrong it was and how unjust. So I decided to trust the formula. Jesus says, pray for your enemies. So I started praying for them every day. And I have to tell you that it did not work. I got mad every time I thought of them. I would get so angry all over again. It just did not work for me. And I was like, why isn't this working? So one day, it was a very important day for someone who I loved. Because of Easter, and because the impossible is possible, I have a very beautiful relationship with my grandmother, my Polish grandmother, my Baci. She's been dead for 17 years, but we talk every day, and we're very close. On this day, it was what would have been her 100th birthday, the 100th anniversary of her birth, had she lived. And so I got out this picture and I brought it. This is exactly the picture that I put in my prayer space that morning. And I lit a candle in front of it, and I was talking to her, and I said, so Baci, what do you want for your birthday? I mean, it's 100. Talk about a milestone. What would you like? But then I thought, but you're dead. What do you get a dead person in heaven for their 100th birthday? And as I was sitting there just looking at her picture and smiling and being connected with her, I heard her say, in my heart, as clear as could be, I want you to forgive those girls. And for a moment I resisted. I said, that's the one, I don't know how to do, I can't do that. And then all of a sudden, this flood of love came in me, right down from the top of my head, and flushed everything out. I had absolutely no bitterness from that moment on. And I couldn't have managed it myself. It was impossible. I was failing at it. But because Jesus has made the impossible possible, that love just flowed through me. And interestingly, about a year later, I ran into one of those people unexpectedly. And it was just instinct for me to throw my arms open and hug her. It was a miracle that day. I think about that day quite often. June 21st, 2008. A day that the impossible became possible because of Easter. In 2016, 10 years after the Amish story, a gunman walked into Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina, one of the oldest black congregations in the country. And he came in pretending to be interested in their Bible study, and they were having a Bible study that night. So we said, can I join? And they said, sure. And then in the middle of the Bible study, he said racist things and shot and killed 9 of them, including the pastor. Many of the relatives of those people killed went to his hearing when he was arraigned, and they said, may we make a statement? And one after another they said, we know that justice must be served, and that's correct. But we want you to know that we forgive you, that we do not hold this against you. And people asked the new minister, the new pastor of Mother Emanuel Church, because the other pastor had died in the incident. They asked the new pastor, how can your community do that? How can you do something like that? It makes no sense. And the new pastor said, Jesus has taught us that sometimes you've got to just love the hell out of people. You got to love the hell out of people. And a lot of us will recognize that's the formula. That's what he says. You love the hell out of people. But a lot of us don't trust the formula, so we've tried other ways. Have you ever tried to nag the hell out of people? Doesn't work. Sometimes we resent the hell out of people. God forbid we beat the hell out of people, or we hate the hell out of people. It won't work. That's not the formula. He says, you love the hell out of people. And he loved the death out of us. He loved the death right out of us. It's gone. So that's the formula. Because he loved the death out of us, we're now free to love the hell out of other people. So on this Easter day, let us make a decision here and now to stick with the one who removed death from the story. Let's trust the formula.